As soon as we hit 6 o'clock, our technical end is ready to go.
I have a question for somebody. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yes.
Certainly. Okay. Who's speaking?
This is Jose Gaeta. I'm one of the petitioners. Do I supposed to be here? Do you want to see me or hear me?
We'd love to see you and hear you.
Okay. First time doing this. My bad.
No, you're good. We'll walk you through it. Which one is yours, sir? Is it the
3445?
Okay.
Unions.
We'll make sure we shout for you when it comes to Z2802 or 05.
It's 2802.
Okay. We'll make sure we shout for you then, okay?
I will turn off till then.
Great. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
All right, Sally, you ready?
We're ready.
Yeah, social media is up and running.
Okay, wonderful. With that, we'll go ahead and call the September 16th, 2020 Area Planning Commission public hearing.
This conference will now be recorded.
And we are now recording. To order, Zach, you do the roll call, please.
All right, when I call your name, please signify that you're here. Jackson Bogan.
Here.
Larry Leverins.
Here.
Roland Winger.
Here.
Gary Schroeder.
Here.
Gary Reynolds.
Here.
Greg Jones.
Here.
Jake Gray.
Here.
Diana Looper.
Here.
Vicki Pearl.
Here.
Michelle Dennis.
Here.
Tom Murtaugh.
Present.
Harry Brown.
Here.
Tracy Brown.
Here.
Carl Griffin.
I'm here.
Lisa Dellum.
Here.
Kathy Parker.
Here.
Carla Snodgrass.
Here.
100% attendance. We do have a quorum.
Excellent. Right into the briefing session. Sally?
It'll be short and sweet because all cases are ready to be heard.
Wonderful. And into the approval of the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes from the August 19th, 2020 meeting as submitted.
I second.
A motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? That motion carries. There is no new business, and so we'll move into the public hearing, which I will now get to read this wonderful statement. For those of you unfamiliar with our procedures, the Commission would like you to know the following. When we hear a request to subdivide land, we are only concerned as to whether the actual drawing showing the division into lots meets the technical requirements of our ordinance. The question of appropriateness has already been determined. Anyone wishing to make comments or provide us with information regarding any subdivision petitions will be given the opportunity to do so. When we are hearing a request for a change in zoning, we are trying to determine if the new zone being requested and the uses allowed in that zone are appropriate to that property and supported by the comprehensive plan. With each case being heard, our staff will present its report, and the person requesting the rezone will be given an opportunity to speak. Following that, those of you wishing to speak in favor of the rezone will be recognized, and then those of you wishing to oppose it will have a turn. This will be your only time to speak. The person requesting the action will be allowed a rebuttal. Plan Commission members will then ask questions and finally vote. Please limit your statements to no more than 5 minutes. We ask that you not repeat what others before you have already said. We are a 17-member body, and a majority of 17 is 9, regardless of how many commissioners are present, are actually present. At least 9 votes in favor or 9 votes against are required for our action to be official. If fewer than 9 of us agree to either approve or disapprove the action, that case must be heard again next month. Our vote on a request to subdivide is final. Our vote on a request to rezone serves as a recommendation to the appropriate city council, town council, or county commissioners, who must ultimately decide on changes in zoning. When addressing the commission, please state your name and address for the record. Cell phones must be turned off while in the meeting and session. If you need to make a call, please step out or mute your mic. All exhibits presented to the commission become the property of the commission.
I I move that there be incorporated into the public hearing portion of each application be heard this evening and to become part of the evidence at such hearing, the Unified Zoning Ordinance, the Unified Subdivision Ordinance, the Comprehensive Plan, the bylaws of the Area Plan Commission, the application and all documents filed therewith, the staff report and recommendations on the application to be heard this evening, and responses from the checkpoint agencies.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. On to subdivisions.
I move to hear and vote on S 4935, Doherty Commerce Center minor subdivision, a replat of lot 14 minor sketch.
I second.
Don, it's all you.
Okay. Doherty Commerce is a subdivision that's been under development since 1998. Lot 14 was actually recorded just this past January. It covers about 5 acres. But the purpose of this replat is to add land that lies to the west, adjoins to the west, so will actually make this property 9 acres. It's currently under development for a self-storage warehouse business. The Doherty Commerce subdivision is located at the northwest corner of Veterans Memorial and Concord Road. You can see on the location map there that this is at the northeast corner of that project. And it butts up against the old railroad right-of-way there. It's zoned general business. To the north is I-3. To the west is Brittany Chase subdivision and planned development, single-family development. To the south is land that's already been developed in the Doherty Commerce development. Access will come from a private drive that actually borders on the south and be shared with existing development to the south. There'll be a no vehicular access actually platted along the Concord Road right-of-way, which has been dedicated. One of the sort of unusual things about getting this all recorded together is we'll get right-of-way that has been needed for the Doherty Drive. You can see there along the west side on the curve, finally dedicate for this existing public street. Part of the development also will include platting of an outlot, outlot A, along the north side up against the old railroad right-of-way. The site has city services and all the zoning, actually all of the zoning setback lines have been shown correctly. There will be a need for, since this is zone general business, it butts up against residential zoning to the west there. There's a type C buffer yard required. That would be something that would be handled through the building permit phase by the Lafayette City Engineer's Office. But with that, staff does recommend conditional primary approval based on 7 standard conditions.
Thank you, Don. Petitioner's representative want to speak in regards to this?
Tim, you want me to do that? For the record, Dan Teeter, attorney Riley Teeter and Schreier, represent the petitioner. We concur with staff's report, staff's recommendation. We will abide by all their conditions. We would request bonding, and we would ask for your approval for this conditional primary approval. Be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. I feel like that wasn't the first time you've ever done that. With that, do we have any questions? Or is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this? Is there anyone wishing to speak opposed? And Ryan, you're looking at the citizens' comments, correct?
Yes, presently we have none on either platform.
Keep a look on that. Do we have any questions, or keep an eye on that, please? Do we have any questions from the commission members?
So Mr. Teeter had mentioned bonding, but this is a minor, so I'm assuming there is no bonding?
That's correct. This is a minor replat. There's no need for that request.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Mr.
for that
McCall.
correction. And with this, while we're waiting on that minute to pass that Ryan's watching, I'd like to remind everybody we have an email from Diana Trader from Tuesday at 8:30 with the ballot enclosed, and we will be voting on S4935, and we will need to complete that for Don.
There's about 15 seconds left for public comment.
Thank you.
And the time has passed.
And no comment on this item.
Thank you very much. Zach, would you please?
All right, when I call your name, please signify your vote by saying approve or deny. Jackson Bogan,
Approve conditional approval.
Larry Leverins,
Approve.
Roland Winger,
Approve.
Gary Schroeder,
Approve.
Gary Reynolds,
Approved.
Greg Jones,
Approve.
Jake Gray,
Approve.
Diana Looper,
Approve.
Vicki Pearl,
Approved.
Michelle Dennis,
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh,
Approve.
Perry Brown,
Approve.
Tracy Brown,
Approve.
Carl Griffin,
Approve.
Lisa Dullum.
Do we not need to approve with conditional? Or is that the same thing?
The motion's already been made with the condition, so we're
Okay.
fine. This will be the
Okay.
conditional approval.
Okay, I approve.
Kathy Parker,
Approve.
Carlos Snodgrass.
Approve.
All right, that subdivision is approved. You have your written ballots. Please make sure we get those to Don.
And Don, would you let us know when all those are received, please?
Will do. We have 17 ballots filled out for approval.
Thank you very much. On to rezoning activities, Z2800.
I move to hear and approve Z 2800, Joshua Shivers, A to GB.
I second.
John?
Okay, good evening, everybody. Petitioner, who is also the owner of this site, is seeking to rezone from the agricultural zoning district to the general business district. The site is known as Lot 2 in Oliver subdivision, just under 1 acre in size. It is located on the north side of State Road 25 at its intersection with 500 West. If you remember last month, this petition was heard, but was continued at the meeting for the purpose of adding a commitment to this request. Petitioners added a commitment that would prohibit uses including adult-related businesses and gasoline service stations. The proposed use for this property is to sell ATVs and UTVs, which are all-terrain vehicles, utility task vehicles, and Jeeps. And petitioner can talk a little bit more about that. If we look at the aerial here, you'll see that on site is a structure that was once used as a veterinarian clinic. Veterinarian clinics are permitted by right in the A zone. Just to the west is a single-family home. Prior to this property being subdivided, this was all one lot, and it had the vet office with a single-family home. Since it's been subdivided, the veterinarian clinic is for sale. Petitioner needs general business zoning to accomplish his use. Staff is unable to support this for a few different reasons, the comprehensive plan being the main reason. This area is not served by sewer and water. So commercial zoning is not something we would support. The development pattern of GB zoning allows a lot coverage of 60% with a very small green space requirement of 10%. We also feel that that is very different than the rural setting that the site has. There is no noise ordinance in the county, and to introduce commercial zoning to this location could be something that would be incompatible with the adjacent residences. Staff is recommending denial.
Thank you very much, John. Mr. Shives, I see you on here. Would you like to comment?
My name is Josh Shives. I live at 1910 West 450 South, 47909. I was here last month too. I went back and filed the commitment for a couple different businesses, and he summed up basically what want to do with the property. It's right on the way to Attica Badlands, where you see constant traffic for all-terrain vehicles, and I'd like to capture some of that. So that's what I'm asking to do.
Thank you very much. Is any questions?
It's Carl Griffin. So remind us, Josh, what interaction you've had with the folks that are in the residence to the west of your property, please.
I've only spoken to them once. It was right before, like 2 days before the last meeting, whatever day that was. And they were concerned about future use after me, if my business wasn't there, or that's what they expressed to me in our conversation. So I do question the fact that any house out there would ever know that I couldn't sell ATVs when they bought the house to begin with. But yeah, it's beside the point.
Are there any letters on this, staff?
There are none.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the commission members?
Just a minute, Jackson. We have some people here in the room who are ready to speak. So
Wonderful.
We'll get them set up at a microphone so they can address the commission.
Great.
Go ahead.
Sally, because I'm not there, can you ask if they're wishing to speak in favor or against, and if we do it in favor first and then against second?
Against.
I think it's against.
Okay. We'll go ahead and hear that now.
I am Tricia Grubb. I own a home that is adjacent to the property that is wanted to be zoned. I am against it. There are several reasons, but it does, when I walk out the door of my home, I don't want to look at a lot full of vehicles, recreational vehicles, used or new, it doesn't matter. It is in the country. It would be a definite eyesore to me. And if the business is it's even successful, as they trade in for the junk vehicles, you see this in a lot of these individually owned places. I just, yeah, I'm very much against it. And should this business fail, what am I going to see in next? You know, it's out in the country. I'm just totally against it.
Thank you,
And I
Mrs.
do
Grubb.
also know that it would devalue if I want to sell my home. Something like this would make my home certainly worth it.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Grubb. And just to confirm, your property is the one directly to the west. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak, Sally?
No, that's it. There is another lady here but it may be about a different case.
Okay. At this point in time, petitioner, would you like to have a rebuttal in regards to that?
Yeah, I can't rebuttal what the future use would be. My only rebuttal would be that I mean, it was a business before, obviously it was a different type of business, but I would, like I said a couple minutes ago, I would venture to guess that most people didn't even know I couldn't sell UTVs or ATVs at that building. Doesn't change the fact that I can't, but it's been sitting empty for 7 years. I'm trying to repurpose it and make use of it. There's been other people that were interested in it before me, and they did not get to the closing table for the sheer fact that they couldn't do what they wanted to do with it. So,
thank you very much. Commission members, do we have any questions?
Tom Murtaugh here. Josh, I'm sorry, can you hear me okay?
yes.
Okay. Josh, did you have any further conversation with anyone with any of the neighbors on the other side of 500?
Yes, I've talked to them. That guy didn't care at all. He has I mean, he kind of just seemed excited about it. He himself has off-road vehicles. He also has a race car and an airplane, so he's kind of into that gearhead stuff. But he had no reserves about it.
And what about the other neighbors to the west of Mrs. Road?
I have not spoke to them.
Okay.
Yes.
With that, we will wait 1 minute for public comment without any further questions from the commission members. If you'd let us know when that time is.
Timing.
Zach, while we're waiting, will you make will you be calling for the vote for the commitment first and then the rezone second?
Yeah, yes, that's the right order. And I will probably do both voice votes in a row, and then we can get all our written ballots broken down.
Great.
President Bogan, question?
Yes.
This is Roland Winger. Staff, if John or Sally, if you could comment, setting the sewer and water issue aside, in your own recommendation for denial due to that, talk about uses under GB, or talk about uses under agricultural, excuse me, and how that density or intensity of use compared to the yet surviving uses after the commitment for GB.
John, do you want to start or do you want me to?
If you'd start, I'll chime in.
I would say that one of the biggest differences is that in GB zoning, it's ripe for having product stored outside, like an automobile car lot or this ATV sales. The building isn't big enough that they will all be housed inside. So all of the business uses that permit outside storage could happen in general business. The businesses permitted by right in agriculture, like the veterinary clinic, tend to be a bit more benign. And if they are more intense, they typically require a special exception.
Thank you.
John,
And we have no further public comment on social media.
John, this is Larry Leverins. Can you comment on explain a little more about the 60% cover, 10% vegetative? Why do you see that as being different in this case than in an urban setting? I'm not just out of my ignorance. What's the difference there?
Sure. Currently, the way the property is zoned with agricultural zoning, the building coverage for any lot zoned agricultural would be limited to 20% of the lot can have roofed structure. So a 20% roofed structure coverage is much less than the 60% that you would see typically in an urban area. If this property were zone GB, it would allow a development that would be inconsistent with the surrounding properties because most are larger lot residential or farm fields. This would, lend itself to more of an urban type of development. Also, GB zoning requires you to pave. There'd be some other, because only 10% of the lot has to be green space, that sometimes results in having to do some type of stormwater detention on site. So by the time you add that in, it can drastically change the character of land after it's developed with commercial zoning, as opposed to the agricultural zoning that this property has had.
Okay, if that were the case, then how does that affect the sewer system, for example? If you pave that this lot or pave a good portion of this lot, does that affect the sewer mechanism in some way?
Well, typically, when something like this happens, there's a balance between the health department's requirements and the county surveyor or drainage board requirements that have to be satisfied. What that would look like, I really cannot say for this development. If that answers your question.
Sure, thanks.
I guess the other part to that is they would not be permitted to pave over the septic area or probably the reserve septic area should the first field fail. And they may or may not have to do some kind of on-site storage. Any place, however, that they would be storing and showing product that does have to be paved.
That's also a state requirement as well as a local zoning ordinance requirement. As far as obtaining a license to sell vehicles, it's required to be paved, and the GB zoning requires it to be paved.
This is Vicky. I have a question. So if the lot, it's less than 1 acre, and by the time you get into the buffer yard, I mean, we're not left with much area to be covered. Am I missing something here?
Well, you're right. The buffer yard would be 20 feet in width along its western property line. So it would take up some of the usable space and may help a little bit with the green space requirements. But that would be the only type of buffer yard required by the ordinance.
Vicki, my comment was partly directed to the fact that there won't be able to be any product on display in unpaved areas. So how much of it can be paved and how much has to be left unpaved for purposes of the septic system and storm drainage may leave a pretty small area where product can be shown. And I just want to clear that product cannot lop over into the unpaved areas.
So just as an example, looking at this picture right now, if nothing changed, he could only have it in the areas that are paved, not that little, looks like a gravel driveway, correct?
Yeah, I'm not sure if any of it's paved yet.
Oh, okay.
I suppose that front area might be paved. I'm not sure, but yes, that would be right now, assuming it's paved, that would be the only area where product could be displayed for sale.
Sally, Jerry Reynolds, I have a question also. You said that they can come and go 24 hours a day. So if people were coming back from the Badlands, for example, at 11 o'clock after a day, they could come in and stay till 10, 11, 12 o'clock or whatever needed to be done. Is that correct?
Correct. We do not regulate hours of operation.
Okay, thank you.
The petitioners indicated that the lot is paved.
Do we have any more questions or discussion on this topic? With that, Zach, if you would go ahead and call, I think we don't have any public comment, do we, Ryan, anymore?
Correct. No further comment on this item.
Zach, if you'd go ahead and call, please.
All right, so this first vote is just to allow the commitment. So when I call your name, please signify your vote.
Zach, we can hardly hear you.
Okay, how about now?
It's a little better.
All right. So this first vote is just to allow the commitment. So when I call your name, please signify your vote on the commitment. Jackson Bogan.
Yes.
Larry Leverance.
Yes.
Ron Winger.
Yes.
Gary Schroeder.
Yes.
Jerry Reynolds.
Yes.
Greg Jones.
Deny.
Jake Gray.
Deny.
Diana Looper.
Approve.
Vicky Pearl.
Approve.
Michelle Dennis.
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh.
Approve.
Harry Brown.
Approve.
Tracy Brown.
Approve.
Carl Griffin.
Sorry, approve the commitment.
Thank you. Lisa Dellum.
Approve.
Kathy Parker.
Oh, approve. Sorry.
You're fine. Carla Snodgrass.
Approve.
All right. So there are 15 votes in favor, 2 votes against to allow the commitment. Now I'm going to call for the vote on the actual rezone to allow this to go from A to GB. So when I call your name, please signify approve or deny on the rezone itself. Jackson Bogan.
Deny.
Larry Leverance.
Deny.
Roland Winger.
Deny.
Gary Schroeder.
Approve.
Gary Reynolds.
Deny.
Greg Jones.
Deny.
Jake Gray.
Deny.
Diana Looper.
Approve.
Vicky Pearl.
Approve.
Michelle Dennis.
Deny.
Tom Murtaugh.
Deny.
Harry Brown.
Approve.
Tracy Brown.
Deny.
Carl Griffin.
Deny.
Lisa Dellum.
Deny.
Kathy Parker.
Deny.
Carla Snodgrass.
Deny.
All right, I have thirteen votes in, 13 votes against, 4 votes in favor, so the rezone is denied. Please fill out your ballots for both the commitment and the rezone itself and get those to Don.
Don, would you please let us know when those are received?
Will do.
Jackson, just for the petitioner's information, I just want to clear that this is not the final step and that that vote tonight is a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you, Sally.
For the commitment, we have 17 responses, 15 yes, 2 no. And for the ballot on the rezone request with commitment, 17 responses, 4 yes and 13 no.
Thank you, Don. Moving on to Z2802.
I move to hear and approve Z 2802, Jose E. Gaeta, GB to I3.
I second.
John? John, I think your mic's muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, let's try that again. Okay, sorry about that. Petitioner, who is also the owner of the subject property, is requesting a rezone from the general business zone to industrial I3 zoning. Petitioner also owns the 2 properties due north that border along Union Street. The properties on Union Street both repair and sell cars at those locations. This I3 zoning is requested so that an auto salvage license could be obtained. And petitioner can explain more about how their business will run. In this area, it's a very solid commercial corridor along Sagamore Parkway with a few exceptions. The most notable one is what's adjacent to the west. You can see the I-1 that was rezoned in 2008 to accommodate Sunbelt Rentals was the name at the time, where you can rent cranes and lifts and things like that. Then, of course, we have industrial zoning on the other side of the railroad corridor. Staff is able to support this industrial rezone for a few reasons. One, it's adjacent to industrial on both the east and west sides, as well as adjacent to the railroad corridor. There is sewer and water serving this site. There would be a small type A buffer yard that would be 20 feet in width that would have to border where it abuts the GB to the west, kind of to the northwest from there. This area of the community was platted as the Belt Railway area to spur industrial development in our town over 100 years ago. Its effects are still being felt, and this is still a focus of both commercial and industrial use. The change to I3 zoning based on its location is supportable by staff.
Very well then. Petitioner, Jose, would you like to say something?
Yes, I would. So thank you very much for that explanation. That's much better than I could ever do. The idea here is not to have a salvage yard. This is only a requirement from the state for us to do what we already do, but to do it for our own vehicles. Basically, is to rebuild vehicles, and what they call it is a rebuilder's license. But it falls into the same category as a salvage yard. But we are under no means intend to have a salvage yard within the city limits. But there will be some dismantled vehicles parts, definitely not a salvage yard. So I don't want to confuse people with that. Also, I believe there is a couple letters from the public that seem to be confused about the location of the property. This is not attached to the street in no way. This is not visible from Union Street at all. So both is not going to be a salvage yard. It's just that the state requires this for us to rebuild vehicles of our own, which basically we are doing because there is a body shop in function right now on the same property. But to do our own vehicles, we're required to have this license, which falls on the same category as salvage yard, which is not what we intend to do. And that's pretty much all I got, I think.
Thank you very much, Jose. Just for clarification purposes, so this is the section it's shown on the screen now that is actually back behind and does not abut Union Street itself.
That is 100% correct.
Thank you for that clarification. Do we have any questions from the commission members?
Yeah, Jose's Jay Gray. I was just wondering, like, if you had a plan in place to ensure there wouldn't be any environmental issues as far as wherever you guys are going to be doing your repairs. Would there be excessive oil or whatever leaking into the ground in that area?
Yes, so yes and yes, of course. We are already a full functional facility. So actually those things are already in place. We have we obviously recycle absolutely all the lubricants and all the chemicals that come from the vehicles. Like I said, we are a full service facility as we sit in there as a general business. There's a full functioning body shop. So everything that is to take place is already taken place. This is a legality more than anything, just for the state to license us as a salvage restorer, which for whatever reason they put us in the same category as a salvage yard, but not our intention again. But yes, every step is taken so that we don't contaminate soil. We don't put chemicals in the soil. We don't drain coolant or oil or gasoline into the soil. Everything is, you know, taken very serious, and you know, we get yearly, you know, we got the fire department that comes through here every year. We're under, you know, we're a full functioning business, so we already taking care of all the.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Ryan, I understand we have 2 letters to read, and I think we can do the waiting 1 minute for public comment. And Ryan, if you'd go ahead and read those letters while we wait for that public comment.
Sure, they are both letters in opposition. The first is from Caleb Reeves of 3715 Rollins Drive, Lafayette. It reads, I'm sending this message because I am against the lot on the corner of Union and Sagamore being turned into a salvage yard. Honestly, why would you let anybody do that? Salvage yards are known to be places where people get rid of stolen cars. They are also places where drug dealers hang out because they can move drugs easily in old cars. Not to mention they attract people who just hang out for who knows what reasons. Lastly, is that a really nice building? I'm afraid the sentence is not structured properly, so I'll just read it as is. Lastly, that it is a really nice building. Does it make sense to you that somebody would want to tear it down and make a salvage yard? It doesn't to me. It seems like they are planning some illegal activities. The case number or whatever is Z2802. The second letter is from Valerie Bogan of 609 Anchor Drive, Lafayette. I'm writing to express my displeasure with an item on the agenda. I'm referring to Z2802, Jose Gueda petition to rezone the corner of Sagamore and Union for auto salvage operation. I have several objections to this proposal, including the size of the lot is too small. I have been by several similar operations and they require more room. By allowing a salvage operation on this small lot, it will result in junk cars being stacked on top of each other. This will result in an unsafe eyesore. This business will be an eyesore, and it is located on 2 major roads within the city. I'll be honest that it isn't the prettiest corner in town due to the wire factory, but that is not an excuse to make it uglier. Most cities are trying to beautify themselves. Please explain how this establishment will make that corner of better instead of worse. During the normal year, Union is used by a lot of people to get to Purdue for various events. Do you want people to sit at the stoplight at Union and Sagamore and see an ugly salvage yard? This will not make a good impression to visitors. Oh, and the fences they put up around those places sometimes don't really hide junk from people who are driving by. I don't believe large trucks can access this lot without obstructing travel on Sagamore or Union. Lastly, I do not believe this issue was given the publicity it deserved. The only reason I saw the sign was because I was walking past. I wouldn't have seen it if I was driving. They placed the sign on the driveway, which is located on Sagamore, instead of on the corner of Sagamore and Union, where it would have been more visible as people sat at the traffic light. Thank you for your time. That's it.
Thank you, Ryan. Do we have any more public comment?
Nothing on social media.
Thank you. Petitioner, at this point in time, you're allowed a rebuttal. Jose,
Okay.
if you'd like to speak to that, or if you feel like you've already
Absolutely.
stated.
Comments. Both of those letters refer to the wrong address. Obviously, they're speaking of Union Street. I don't think they read the sign properly. It was very clearly that the location was not where the sign was. It was 200 feet back. So there seemed to be some confusion on those letters. So I would say, due to the fact that the location that they're referring to is not even the location they're talking about, I think we can probably ignore those two letters, because they're talking about a completely different address. 3465, which is, and 3461, which are also my properties, are not to be affected in any way by this. And the second thing is, and I said this 3 times already, this is not to be a salvage yard by any means.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
Jackson, this is Dan Teeter. Could I make a comment?
Please.
Would the board allow me to make a comment?
Certainly.
A clarification comment. I think the confusion is I have a variance petition with the city of Lafayette for the corner, and those signs are both on Union and on Sagamore. So I think that's been part of the confusion, perhaps. I just wanted to tell the board that.
Thank you very much. And so that's for the New Tone building? Thank you.
Yes, yes, it is.
And
Okay,
Jackson,
thank you for that clarification, Mr. Teeter. Any more comments or questions from the commission?
question, Jackson, Roland Winger. We can confirm that the area plan sign notice was placed properly in relation to the property.
It was. I checked it today.
Thank you.
Roland, typically what we do when there is a property that has no frontage on a public road, such as this, if they can put it on the public road, like Mr. Gaeta did because he owns the properties at Union, then typically we write on the bottom of the sign, property is located X number of feet to the south.
Thank you.
With that, Ryan, if no further comments or questions from the commission, we will go ahead and take the vote, please.
All right, when I call your name, please signify your vote with approve or deny. Jackson Bogan.
Approve.
Larry Leverins.
Approve.
Roland Winger.
Approve.
Gary Schroeder.
Approve.
Gary Reynolds.
Approved.
Greg Jones.
Approve.
Jake Gray.
Approve.
Diana Looper.
Approve.
Vicky Pearl.
Approved.
Michelle Dennis.
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh.
Approve.
Perry Brown.
Approve.
Tracy Brown.
Approve.
Carl Griffin.
Approve.
Lisa Dellum.
Approve.
Kathy Parker.
Approve.
Carla Snodgrass.
Approve.
17 votes in favor of recommending approval on Z 2802. Please
Thank
get
you.
your written ballots to Don. Thank you.
Thank you. And Don, let me know, please.
Will do.
I have 17 responses, all for approval.
Thank you very much. On to Z2803.
Move that we hear and approve Z2803, Kaysen and Earl LLC, I3, NB, and GB to NB.
I second.
Greg or Ryan?
All right. Well, as you can see on the zoning map here, we've got quite a collection of zoning districts. General business kind of dominates. On the right of the subject property there, neighborhood business. To the south, a mixture of residential densities to the southwest. MRU, R3, that's, like I said, it's quite a hodgepodge. This site is mostly zoned I3. And it does have, as you can see there on the southern boundary, and maybe if we can zoom in one more, you'll have NB and GB there as well. As you can see, the site is currently unimproved. There were some structures on the site that were removed about 4 years ago, according to our aerials. There's a host of uses surrounding this, consistent with all the zones that I just went through surrounding the site. Gas station, multifamily apartments, etc. The site does have frontage on both Kaysen Street and Earl Avenue, which is urban local and urban secondary, respectively, according to the thoroughfare plan. The site, of course, is served by public utilities. Again, the petition is to establish an office building use for a relocated office from downtown. Given the fact that majority of this vicinity has been commercially zoned and in some cases industrially zoned for many decades, staff can easily support this this change. And in fact, what we're seeing is a lessening of intensity. So removing that I3 zone takes away a host of uses, the one we just described about salvage yards. So going to the NB zone is definitely is a down zoning of a sort, and perfectly appropriate for this site in terms of commercial development. So staff is recommending approval.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Petitioner's representative, like to make a comment?
Thank you, Jackson. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Teeter for the record, attorney with Riley, Teeter, and Schreier. I represent the petitioner. Again, we're requesting rezone to NB for this site. Petitioner's present office building is located on North 7th Street in Lafayette. It's being taken by the city for the either the proposed police station or perhaps the city office, another city office building at that location. So obviously petitioners needs a new location or a new site for his office. And he's proposing to build on this site a one-story building of about approximately 9,000 square feet. He also owns the land to the west of this building as well, which will remain I3 at this time. As staff's indicated, we're surrounded by NB, GB, I3, bordered by Earl Avenue and Kaysen Street as well. This office building will be used by petitioner for developing real estate for the various entities that he owns, and also as a real estate office. The city of Lafayette supports our request. We concur with staff's report, staff's recommendation. We respectfully request your favorable recommendation. Be happy to respond to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Teeter. Are there any questions from the commission? With that, we will take a 1 minute pause unless Sally, that other individual that was in the office, is there to speak on behalf of this.
She left, so she just may have been here accompanying the lady who did speak. So
Fair
we
enough.
have nobody left in the room.
Thank you. We'll take that 1 minute pause.
1 minute has elapsed.
Thank
And no
you,
further comment on
Ryan.
this item.
Thank you. Zach, would you please?
All right, when I call your name, please signify your vote with approve or deny on Z 2803. Jackson Bogan,
Approved.
Larry Leverins,
Approve.
Roland Winger,
Approve.
Gary Schroeder,
Approve.
Jerry Reynolds,
Approved.
Greg Jones,
Approved.
Jake Gray,
Approve.
Diana Looper,
Approve.
Vicky Pearl,
Approved.
Michelle Dennis,
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh,
Approve.
Harry Brown,
Approve.
Tracy Brown,
Approve.
Carl Griffin,
Approve.
Lisa Dellum,
Approve.
Kathy Parker,
Approve.
Carla Snodgrass.
Approve.
17 votes in favor of recommending approval on Z 2803. Please get your ballots to Don. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 17 responses, all for approval.
Thank you very much. On to Z 2804.
I move to hear and approve Z 2804, Mezzanine 7 LLC, R3W to R4W.
I second.
Ryan?
All right. Well, we're over in West Lafayette here. Petitioner plans to take down the existing building. Well, at first, you look at the zoning map here. We've got a lot of R3W zoning and a lot of planned developments and central business West Lafayette to the north. You can go ahead and scroll into the next slide here. Petitioner plans on raising the existing building and building a 3-story apartment building to house 12 studio units. The house that's there was originally constructed in 1938 and has since been converted into student apartments over many, many years. Based on the size of the units they are interested in, the Type D unit per the zoning ordinance would fit, which has a parking requirement of 1.1 spaces per unit, or 14 spaces effectively. Of course, public utilities are available. This is within the West Lafayette Downtown Plan study area, and their proposed use of a 3-story apartment building fits right in with that downtown village category, a land use category, which really supports a wide variety, a wide mix of residential and mixed use densities and intensities. So this would fit right in with that that designation. So staff is happy to recommend approval of this. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. Petitioner's representative.
Thank you again. For the record, Dan Teeter with Riley, Teeter, and Schreier represent the petitioner. Petitioner is present to respond to any comments or questions that you might have. Requesting rezone to R4W. Also, as staff's indicated, we're proposing to raise the existing house in the site. This house has been approved for 5 units with 10 beds in it. So petitioner is going to erect a 3-story apartment building with 12 studio units, which will have 12 beds in it as well. Under this present zone, we can build 11 units consisting of about 344 square feet of living space. By improving it or changing the zoning to the R4W, the 12 unit studios would then increase the living area to 46 square feet. So it's my opinion that the larger 1-bedroom studios makes much more sense. And as a result, there's a lot of greater demand for those around this area for the student campus population. As you could tell from the previous map or the zoning map, we're surrounded by high density student units with all recent developments that have occurred in there have been in excess of 5 stories. We meet all the requirements of the West Lafayette downtown plan, as staff stated as well, and we're classified as downtown village, which definition also supports our request. We have no objections from the West Lafayette staff on this matter. We concur with staff's report, staff's recommendation, and again, would ask for your favorable recommendation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Teeter. Do we have any questions from the commission? Hearing none, we'll wait for that public comment. Sally, if you would, please. I think we've hit the minute mark now.
We did. There is no further comment on this item.
Okay. With that, we will go ahead and call for the vote.
All right, we'll call your name. Please signify your vote with approve or deny on Z2804. Jackson Bogan.
Approve.
Larry Leverance.
Approve.
Roland Winger.
Approve.
Gary Schroeder.
Approve.
Jerry Reynolds.
Approve.
Greg Jones.
Approve.
Jake Gray.
Approve.
Diana Looper.
Approve.
Vicky Pearl.
Approve.
Michelle Dennis.
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh.
Approve.
Perry Brown.
Approve.
Tracy Brown.
Approve.
Carl Griffin.
Approve.
Lisa Dellum.
Approve.
Kathy Parker. I didn't hear you, Kathy. I think you were on mute. She may be having some technical difficulties. Carla Snodgrass.
Approve.
16 votes in favor of recommending approval on Z2804. Please get your ballots to Don.
Thank you.
We have 16 responses, all for approval.
Thank you. Z2805.
I move to hear and approve Z2805, Midwest Rentals Incorporated, care of Nancy Fosnot, PDNR to GB.
I second.
Ryan?
Okay. Well, I was around when this went from GB to PDNR, so I actually remember this case very well. Midwest Rentals Plan Development, which was Z2420, was approved back in 2010. The main reason they could have done what they were already planning to do in terms of their rental business and the at the time they had a porta potty cleaning storage service as well. Again, that outdoor storage in general businesses is permitted. The problem is 10 years ago, this site was not on the sewer grid. And so in order to accomplish their goal at that time, they decided to go the plan development route to establish an extremely elaborate method of transporting all of the affluent coming out of this site. an elaborate pump and haul system. It was very specific and restrictive plan development. And so fast forward 10 years later, and the Klondike Road project has solved that sewer problem. And so the need for the plan development zone with all of its restrictions is no longer relevant. It's no longer needed on this site. So public utilities being fully available to the site, staff recommends the essentially returning this site back to its former general business zone. If you zoom in on the site, you'll see that it's still improved with the original Henry Poor lumber building that Midwest Rentals took over and made use of for their purposes when they were in operations there. They have since consolidated all their operations over in Lafayette. Midwest Rentals has. So this getting this site out of its PD zone will allow it to be a lot more useful than it currently is. So staff is recommending approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. Any comments from the commission? Hearing none, we'll take that 1 minute pause.
Jackson, do you want me to give a presentation?
You know what? We ought to let you talk, shouldn't we?
No, you don't have to. That's it. I guess you can.
My apologies, Mr. Teeter, please.
All right, brief presentation here. Again, for the record, Dan Teeter, Riley Teeter and Schreier. Represent the petitioner. Petitioner's representative is present to respond to any comments or questions. Want to rezone this to GB. I was also involved with Ryan. I did the PD back, I guess it's been about 10 years ago. So difficult to get that done and accomplished, but I think we're on the right track today. So as staff's indicated, we're no longer using this site. It was for the cleaning and storage and rental of the porta potty business that they had. Midwest Rentals is now located on old US 231 in the Elston area. They're still in the rental business, but they're not doing the portable toilet rentals anymore. So petitioner wants to be able to sell the site at Klondike. And in order for that to happen, we've got to get it out of the plan development and into another zone so that that use can be achieved. Again, all the surrounding area is general business as well. That's, again, what we want to do, go back to where it originally was. Staff's indicated, and I concur that, obviously Klondike Road has been greatly improved. We now have water and sewer to the area. We also have sidewalks out there. So a great area for general business for somebody for the future. And this will allow my clients to be able to sell that site and have somebody attain that goal. So with that, we would respectfully request your favorable recommendation, and I'd be happy to respond to any comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Teeter. My apologies again. Now, do we have any questions from the commission? Now we'll take that pause for 1 minute and wait for citizens' comments, if any.
I've started the timing.
Thank you.
One minute has elapsed.
And no comment on this item.
Thank you. Zach?
All right, when I call your name, please signify your vote on Z2805 with approve or deny. Jackson Bogan?
Approve.
Larry Leverett?
Approve.
Roland Winger?
Approve.
Gary Schroeder?
Approve.
Jerry Reynolds?
Approve.
Jake Gray?
Approve.
Diana Looper,
Approve.
Vicky Pearl,
Approve.
Michelle Dennis,
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh,
Approve.
Tracy Brown,
Approve.
Carl Griffin,
Approve.
Lisa Dullum,
Approve.
Kathy Parker, abstain, Carla Snodgrass,
Approve.
16 votes
Zach,
in favor of recommending approval.
Zach,
this
is Greg. You forgot me.
And
I
Perry,
apologize,
Zach.
Greg.
Got me
Approve.
too.
Approve.
You know what? My sheet got cut off, and Greg and Perry are on the last page.
Oh my God.
Wow. Perry, your vote, please.
Approve.
Thank you, sir. And Greg,
Sorry, approve.
Thank you.
some paper technical difficulties. How about that? 16 votes in favor.
Okay, Don, would you let us know when those are all received, please?
Well, we have 15 responses, all for approval.
We'll move on. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't submitted that, please do so, and we can clean that up after the fact. We'll go to administrative matters, where we get to hear from
We now have 16.
Perfect, even better. We can now hear from Mr. Winger. Here's the virtual mic, Mr. Winger.
Thank you, Jackson. If 2020 has been an uneventful year for you, despite all of the things that have happened, if you read today's director's report and didn't know it before, Sally has announced her intended retirement. While tonight is not the night that will recognize her fully for her 20 plus years of dedicated service to us, it is a night to recognize her for her patience and flexibility. I don't know that her intent was to be with us much past the MPO conference that we were to be hosting this fall. But given the situation on the ground, we were a little bit delayed in getting our start to a search for her replacement. So as chairman of the Budget Personnel Committee, Sally informed Jackson as president and myself of her intention. We pulled together an ad hoc committee to just get a first read on this thing, that being with the two mayors, Commissioner Brown, Murtaugh, Jackson, myself, and Sally, about a month ago to say, you know, those are key stakeholders. This is not just an area plan decision. This is a community decision. And so wanted to get an understanding and a feel for how best to go at this search. I think we all are on this board because our commitment to our community and our recognition of how valuable this office and its staff and the leadership of that staff are for our community. And so we've got to consider key stakeholders. So with that, we just said we're gonna welcome the best and the brightest. And to do that, we stated the intent to conduct an executive search and employ an executive search firm to help us with this search, especially in the era of COVID, and how do you best recruit and identify good candidates. So with that, the business item that I'm bringing before you tonight is a result of a month of work. That ad hoc committee commissioned Sally and I to pursue. options. We contacted a number of executive search firms. We had 2 search firms submit proposals, and we can make the full proposals available to you. They're on the order of 15 to 20 pages each. They give examples of how they go about searches, process, materials that they have put together for other searches. We had 2 viable options. One was a search firm that very successfully completed the national search for GLC's CEO, Scott, Scott Walker, who came to our community a number of years ago. The firm that we have chosen and that the ad hoc committee has assented to is Mercer Group. They're out of New Mexico. They formerly had offices in Atlanta, Georgia as well. And boiling it all down, price was essentially the same. Expertise in executive search was essentially the same. Accomplishments essentially the same. But the key differentiator for us in making this recommendation is that the Mercer Group has conducted a number of searches for transportation planning and community planning. And that was a clear differentiator for us. Again, the other firm I think would be viable. They just had very little, and admittedly very little, experience in these particular areas of expertise. There is a small community in this profession that Sally has forwarded to us as places to post the job, and those are known. But there's also value in having experience with a network of individuals that may be interested in this position. So tonight we bring you a very simple 2-page agreement. Zach has reviewed this from a legal perspective without any changes. I would submit this to you. I'm happy to answer any questions, open up any questions that you might have of Sally or Tracy or Tom, and we'd be happy to answer those. And then I would, with this, make a motion that we approve the agreement with the Mercer Group for the executive director's search as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Ron.
I would do want to, I'll maybe offer one more piece here. Both firms also shared what were essentially the same kinds of timelines. Should this be approved, we would have a quick call with the Mercer Group tomorrow to kick things off. There will be a number of key activities to happen very soon, with the ultimate goal of having successfully found, interviewed, and approved, and extended an offer, and had an offer accepted by the end of the year, if we can pull it off. But January, I think, may be a little bit more reasonable, given that we're onto the holidays here pretty quickly. So that's our timeline that we're searching for. We're going to be as aggressive as possible. Budget-wise, because of COVID, Sally had an unfilled position this summer. And then being able to transfer, I can say confidently from a county council perspective, the plan that we have in place for covering the cost on this is within the 2020 budget as well.
And I'll just add, I happen to serve on the search committee for the head of GLC for the Scott Walker search, and Mercer did a great job. I think this is the right choice. So I commend Roland and Sally for their efforts on interviewing these companies, and I think this is the right choice.
Do we have any questions for Roland or Sally?
Last comment too, when I said key stakeholders, will involve key stakeholders from the cities, from the towns. Our budget and personnel committee will also be involved in this process that we will soon line out for inputs. In case you don't know, that's Carl, Tom, Jerry, Jackson, Tracy, Jake, and Michelle. So we'll look forward to sharing more information with you as we go forward and getting involved in this process together. But again, I also want to end this by thanking Sally for both patience and flexibility, but also her inputs here over the last month and getting this lined up.
So we have a motion and a second, if we have no further comment or questions, or we shall go ahead and take a vote.
All right, so the motion on the floor is to approve the contract as submitted with Mercer. So when I call your name, please signify approve or deny. Jackson Bogan.
Approve.
Larry Leverins.
Approve.
Roland Winger.
Approve.
Gary Schroeder.
Approve.
Jerry Reynolds.
Approved.
Greg Jones.
Approve.
Jake Gray. And Jake, I think you're on mute if you're here. All right, we'll mark him as abstained. Diana Looper.
Approve.
Vicki Pearl.
Approved.
Michelle Dennis.
Approve.
Tom Murtaugh.
Approve.
Barry Brown.
Approve.
Tracy Brown.
Approve.
Carl Griffin.
Approve.
Lisa Dallum.
Approve.
Kathy Parker.
Approve.
Carla Snodgrass.
Approve.
All right, just a voice vote on this one. No need for a ballot. 16 votes in favor of entering into that contract with Mercer, and that will give Mr. Winger, as the executive of the Budget Committee, approval to sign that, and we'll move forward with that as well.
Thank you, everyone.
Once again, thank you for all of your efforts on that, Roland. We'll move to the approval of the October 7th Executive Committee agenda.
I move that the following request for subdivision be placed on the October 7th, 2020 Area Plan Commission Executive Committee agenda at petitioner's request. Placement thereon being without reference to compliance or non-compliance with the adopted subdivision ordinance. S 4938 Moulter 2 subdivision minor sketch and S 4939 Newton Farm subdivision minor sketch.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? That carries. We have no new variances. Director's report, Sally?
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to emphasize from my written report that was sent out is the conference that we're hosting on the 29th of September. This is in lieu of us doing our in-person 3-day conference. And those of you who were around in 2009, that was the last time we hosted, because we rotate this throughout the state and all the 14 MPOs. We will be the hosts for 2 years. This year as a 1-day virtual conference. Next year, we all hope that we'll be back to a normal conference here in downtown Lafayette. The theme will be the same both years, so we're taking this 1 day to set the stage in climate solutions using best practices in land use and transportation planning. I will send to all of you the link in case you want to take a busman's holiday and attend part of the conference. You can register, it's free. Or you can just go to our website if you want to do that, where you can also register. It'll all be online. Instead of GoToMeeting, we purchased a month's worth of GoToWebinar, which has allowed us to set up these registrations. It keeps track of everything. The logos and the formatting that I prepared were easily transferable into GoToWebinar. It sends out reminder notices, keeps a dashboard for us of who participated. So I think it's well worth $279 or thereabouts to do this. So I'll send the email with the registration, and feel free to join if you'd like.
Thank you very much.
Quick question. I just wondered, Sally, will that also be recorded and available after the meeting, or is it live only?
Yes, we do have the option to record it. We just have to figure out if we can extract it from GoToWebinar before our 1 month license expires. I assume we'll have a way to do that and then post it someplace. So that's my hope, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We'll move into citizens' comments and grievances. We'll have a 1 minute pause here.
Gary here, I have a brief comment.
Yes, sir.
I was just going to say, I don't know the years exactly, but some 15 years ago, I was on the Budget and Personnel Committee when we also did a nationwide search. I think Carl was on there at that time. And at that time, it was clear that Sally was the best candidate from a nationwide search. And I think as you look at the community's growth, not only from a zoning and planning, but a transportation planning, I think we made a good choice. And I'd say the Budget and Personnel Committee has a big challenge to find someone that has that broad skill to accomplish the next 15 or 20 years. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Sally.
Truly, it's been my pleasure every day.
Well, good. Then stay on a little longer and we'll forget this whole thing.
If you let me work 4 days a week, maybe I could do that.
You need a motion?
I was going to say, who will second that? Thank you very much. Have we had any citizens' comments or grievances?
We have not.
We have not. Gary?
I move to adjourn.
Hey, thank you all once again. Still look forward to seeing everyone when we get that opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
And
Thanks, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.